Hello, everybody. So, Hims has a huge news today. Hims is finally selling Lilly's full lineup of GLP-1s. This is a news we've been waiting for, at least for me, probably close to 2 years, a year and a half. It was always a problem that Hims didn't sell Lilly's products, because if Hims doesn't have the full set of options, why would you go on Hims' website? Of course, the big underlying reason I believe why Hims couldn't have Lilly's products is because while LifeMD and Ro had them, may I remind everyone, when Ro is 5 times smaller than Hims. LifeMD is probably, 10 times smaller than Hims. Okay? Hims is the big kahuna. It's the big player in the market. It's nearly half of telehealth. The fact that this today happened is absolutely amazing news. Now Hims becomes a neutral ground, a neutral distribution ground for drug companies to compete. It's back in the 70s, back in the early days. If a grocery store didn't have Coca-Cola, you wouldn't drive to that grocery store, because you wanted to have Coca-Cola as your option. Coke, you wanted to have it as your option, Coca-Cola. This is the same. A lot of people were not going to go to the Hims platform if they knew that Hims couldn't prescribe them one of the type of GLP-1s. This is such a huge news. This is even more of a huge news that people who are going to usually look for tirzepatide are going to be less healthy people. Because tirzepatide is the highest action, the most effective GLP-1. Now it's on Hims. So Hims is going to have an inflow of less healthy people to which they can cross-sell. Cross-sell maybe anxiety, cross-sell maybe ED, maybe hair loss. It's all related. This is an enormous news, right? This is such an enormous news. And when I said a few weeks ago, I made a video saying they've turned the market into a casino. I'm very serious. If they've turned the market into a casino, look at what's happening with Avis today. They've turned the market into a casino. The fact that the biggest news in 2 years for Hims would lead to the stock being down 1.4%, and the fact, by the way, that when the business was much riskier, with no tirzepatide, with no Novo, with legal risk, legal overhang, compounded GLP-1s, the stock was trading at 60 last year. With all of these risks, now the risks are mostly gone. I don't see the risk anymore. Where's the risk? They sell the branded stuff now, and the stock is down 2%. This is unfathomable. Unfathomable, this price action. Yes, investing.com, their article is correct. Surge is 7%. It should have served 30%, not 7% on this. And we get a 1.4% down. This is the biggest news in nearly 2 years. Lilly's GLP-1 is the top GLP-1. It's tirzepatide. It's dual action. It makes you lose weight faster than Novo. No offense to Novo. Novo is a great product, but Novo is for slightly less overweight people, right? This tirzepatide is the blockbuster, and now Hims has it. So anyways, the amount of bears who have come on X, by the way, this morning, I cannot believe the amount of bear with no argument, just personal attacks, no argument, right? Calling people who love Hims, calling them baby analysts or dumb because they don't follow Wall Street. Excuse me? Of course, I'm going to have no respect for Wall Street and absolutely zero respect for like 90% of analysts when you see this madness. Analysts just keep moving the price target on Hims depending on where Hims moves. They keep saying neutral and they move it where it moves. They don't analyze Hims. Hims is too different of a company. It's too tech. It's too 0 to 1. It is too Netflix-like. Or Spotify-like. It's too much like that for them to understand. Wall Street has missed 0 to 1 stories over and over and over again. Anyways, I had a joke here. Little idea for a merch store, maybe. Maybe the bears, and there's so many of them, maybe they would buy a Hims punching bag. Because this is what Hims stock has been for the past 2 years. So merch idea. You probably would have a lot of bears buying a Hims punching bag. I like that idea a lot. Make money on the bears. Because this is literally what this stock has been. So anyways, let's get into the details. What are the details? Well, first of all, typical big tech, agile, 0 to 1 company. It's already on the website. It's already first page on the website. Foundayo is at Hims. Zepbound, the quick pen, is at Hims. Tirzepatide, and Foundayo, of course, is tirzepatide in a pill with their own system, slightly different, but you get what I mean. And people are getting concerned that Hims didn't call it a partnership in the press release. Well, they didn't call it a partnership because they're sending the prescription to Lilly direct. So Hims essentially acts as an API. But to me, that makes absolutely no difference. I call it a partnership. To me, it's the same as a partnership. Why do I say it's the same as a partnership to me? Because they received permission. They received the go-ahead from Lilly. Lilly probably said, yeah, okay, we can supply it now. Like, the supply is here. We don't have supply chain issues. We now think that we can supply the extreme demand that you, Hims, can provide to us. There was some messaging going on in there. So it's not a partnership per se, because Lilly probably makes most, if not all of the money. From what I understand, they're probably going to make all of the money on actually selling the drug. But guess what? This is not a problem at all, because Hims is making the full membership fee, $149. The full membership fee is going to Hims. And okay, Hims is full of AI-powered nurse practitioners. AI-powered nurse practitioners. Yes, there are MDs on the Hims platform. Last time I checked, they had reported having 1,500 providers. But the MDs are not the bulk of these providers. Like, a lot of these providers, if not, I don't want to say most because I don't know, but a lot of these providers are NPs. NPs are much, much, much cheaper. And they're AI-enabled NPs. So that $149 fee, to me, monthly fee, to me, that's going to be mostly margin. And that's why they can offer a first month, by the way, at $39 for a first month. To me, that's going to be mostly margin. I don't know what the margin is going to be, but maybe 90%, right? Maybe 80% to make it in line with the rest of the business. Maybe higher if you have an easy case. Maybe worse if you have an uneasy case. But that partnership fee is gonna be very, very high margin. SaaS tech-like margins, and it's all theirs to keep. So I'm very impressed by this partnership. We were expecting it, and going over, of course, the early Netflix days analogy. I love that Dudum roots his analogies in big tech, right? Doesn't follow Wall Street. The model is not United Healthcare. The model is Netflix. The model is Spotify. That's the model. And of course, in the early days of Netflix depended on having blockbusters in its catalog. Even if you remember Netflix back in, I think it was 2014, 2015, HBO, trad media didn't see Netflix as a threat. So we were like, sure, give us $100 million and we'll give you Game of Thrones. We'll give you Big Bang Theory. So Netflix in the early days gained a lot of customers because they had all of the top shows distributed on the Netflix streaming platform. And if you didn't have those top shows, why would anybody pay $15 a month if you don't have the hottest show, which back then was Game of Thrones, right? And so back then, Netflix had the hottest show, and people registered to Netflix because Netflix had the hottest show. Now, Hims has the hottest GLP-1, which is tirzepatide. And Hims is going to have the hottest product in pharma's entire history, which is going to be retatrutide. And if they have a Lilly partnership, they will have retatrutide. And so I cannot even fathom how big this news is, because retatrutide is going to be the ultimate game changer. It will be approved by the FDA probably second half of the year. And when it's approved, does that mean Hims is going to have it? Most likely, because now Hims sells the full lineup of Lilly. So that's going to be an enormous deal. And yes, I do think the Hims vision, and it's a blurry vision, but the vision of Hims is a vertically integrated new kind of health company down the road. And we know they have, of course, this peptide manufacturing facility. They have this compounding manufacturing facility. They've hired a generic executive, I think, on their board or something like that. Off the top of my head, I don't remember. But eventually, I believe Hims will make its own drugs. So maybe it will not use the raw ingredients or the raw material, but if you move to fully AI designed and AI customized compounded drugs, Hims will very, very much look like a vertically integrated company who brings a lot of stuff in-house and does a lot of stuff in-house, just like Netflix does. Netflix makes a lot of its own shows now, and they have their own style, which I don't like, by the way. I don't really like Netflix shows. But that's beyond the point, you know. Will Spotify make its own music with AI at some point? Well, it's already becoming more and more of a case. But I believe at some point Spotify will make the music, right? Netflix makes the shows. Hims at some point will make the drugs, and these industries will consolidate. And to me, Hims is big tech. Hims is going to be big tech. Most people don't see it yet. And lastly, let me conclude, of course, with the cross-selling. I already said that. But the cross-selling is going to just be huge, because the people who go on tirzepatide are typically more in need of medical help, and because they're typically bigger. Cross-selling is going to be huge. Imagine that. You have someone who comes to Hims and they want to get Zepbound, and then maybe Hims, every other day you send a push notification on the phone, hey, do you have ED problems? And then you start selling hard mints or something like that. Easy. You got their info, you got their credit card, you got their relationship, you can cross-sell. This is an enormous news for Hims. And the fact that the stock is down really tells me fundamental analysis needs to make a comeback. I am so tired of Wall Street manipulating these stocks. That's what Wall Street is doing. It's manipulation. Anyways, this was not investment advice. This is not financial advice. This is only entertainment. I'm hoping you were entertained. Please please subscribe, follow me on Patreon, follow me on X. Thank you for watching, and have a wonderful, wonderful day.